Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Deciding Factor podcast. I'm John.
I'm Alton.
And, of course, Barb is here with us again. How are you doing, Barb?
Hi, guys. I'm doing good.
So today's show is titled, Is Now the Best Time to Get In on Bitcoin? Now, if you have ever listened to our show, you will know that we come up with some of the craziest topics, but they all affect us in some way or some fashion. But the biggest point is we all learn something, and then we get to make a decision about it. And today's show, you really have to stick to the end, because you will hear some feedback from Alton himself, in which he makes some really great points on and might have you thinking something different when it comes to Bitcoin. But Barb, let me ask you this. After being done with the show and having gone through this, do you feel like you learned anything yourself?
I learned a ton today, actually. I think I am the closest to a Luddite that you can be and still drive a car. And I honestly, by the end of today, I thought, all right, I would purchase Bitcoin. I learned a ton, not just like word definitions. He was great. I'm excited for the show.
Yeah, he was a great guest for show. Y'all are in for a treat.
Yes. So we are going to dive into it. Make sure you check out our new website, thedecidingfactorpodcast.com. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter. Oh, not on Twitter right now. We might come back. But we are on Instagram currently. So make sure you check us out on there and stay tuned, because this is the Deciding Factor.
Everyday life issues broken down to help you build your own opinions on the issues that matter most. Coming to you from Austin, Texas, this is The Deciding Factor with your host, Alton Hill and John Herzog.
All right, guys, welcome back. Like we said in the intro, we want to talk to a guy named Nick, and he's going to talk about whether today is the right time to get in on Bitcoin, or maybe not. Or maybe there's another option that he can teach us about
Dogecoin.
that he knows. So, with that said, Barb, why don't you tell us a little about Nick himself?
All right. First of all, you call him Nick and not Nicholas unless he's in trouble. We learned that the hard way. Nick Prouten he's a veteran and public speaker, a team leader, able to pitch projects, ideas, and concepts concisely and effectively while motivating and driving on target measured results. Somebody wrote this for him. This is awesome. Wow. Okay. With nearly a decade of experience in the tech sector and half a decade in the blockchain industry, which I'm excited to tell you, he can tell us what that means. Nicholas is an expert in driving project growth. He uses his unique leadership style and vision, cultivating seamless paths to create value and transcend goals. A firm believer that diversity is strength, Nick has worked in a wide array of industries, ranging from cybersecurity, gaming, real estate, entertainment, and blockchain. Welcome aboard, Nick.
What's going on?
Well, thank you so much. And yeah, I did not write that bio myself, but I really should probably start, because man,
you do
that's
sound
a hard, standard.
You're very impressive.
You sound far more impressive than I actually am.
Yeah, thank God I didn't read that. I feel like I would have struggled big time.
I don't just achieve goals.
I was going to ask what that meant. Like, is transcending goals somehow better than just like setting and meeting them?
Hashtag transcend goals.
Right. I think they were trying to say that I exceed expectations, but largely all that really means is that right now I work as the COO for a blockchain project that specializes in putting gold and silver on the blockchain. And I'm really excited for you guys to have me on the show to talk about, what Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are, why the heck you should even care, and a little bit about what we do, and hopefully get you guys pumped on the concept of getting into the market, because there's a lot of exciting news. There's also a lot of noise, and I'm hoping I can, shed some light on some things, as well as dispel some of the common myths about the industry. So thank you guys.
Sure. So that no one gets totally confused and me and Barb can start understanding this conversation further, can you give us some of those big definitions of common terms we're going to cover today?
Sure. Things we're probably going to hear a lot of is the word blockchain, You're going to hear cryptocurrencies, and people might think that those two things are synonymous. They're close, but not quite. You're going to hear a lot of your favorite, if you are a cryptocurrency user or investor, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge. That's already out of the hat. And you're going to hear a lot about probably stable coins. And other common sort of investing terms that most people have at least heard once or twice on their local, investment news source.
I was gonna say, start defining, because
but what, like blockchain? What is blockchain?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so blockchain is an algorithm ultimately that is largely used for transactions, and it uses what's called a consensus algorithm, which is just a fancy way of saying a network of computers all agree with each other. And it uses this consensus algorithm to send value back and forth. And after the transaction is completed, after this consensus is reached, the information is stored in blocks. And these blocks are a record of all the transactions that have taken place. And it's like a Lego structure that you can't take apart. It's a train that only goes forward. Once it's there, it's written in stone. There's no erasing it, which, has a lot of advantages. And for some people who might be buying questionable things, some disadvantages, which is why I think Barbara's giving me the eyebrows here.
I'm just saying,
definitely.
they're going to see how many 90 sitcoms I've purchased if I use Bitcoin, is what you're saying. If I use it.
Hypothetically, some nerd out there, some quasi-autistic
Or
nerd out there could
my
find out
government
that information. Yes. Well, no. I mean, yes and no is the reality of it. So Bitcoin and most blockchains are what we like to call pseudo-anonymous. So they basically give you what looks like a garbled list of letters and numbers that acts as your wallet identification. And in order for somebody to know whose wallet this is, they have to either be told personally. So for example, if I am like, hope you guys enjoyed the show today, please tip us in Bitcoin, I would post my public wallet address, and then people could look up that public wallet address and see how much Bitcoin I held, and they would know it was mine because I publicly stated as such. Unless you do something like that, then there's absolutely no way of really knowing without huge data science whose wallet belongs to who. And that's why it's pseudo-anonymous. So there is a way to figure it out, but it's only really there if you make that information public. So now we've very light touched on what a blockchain is. And so now I want to distinguish a blockchain from a cryptocurrency, because contrary to popular belief, blockchains have multiple applications. Cryptocurrencies are financial instruments. They're currencies, they're securities, stocks, bonds, ETFs, speculative vehicles that use this technology. They live on this technology. They are built on top of this technology. They are that technology. And this is the most common use case of a blockchain. And the biggest, most baddest dog in the room is Bitcoin. And Bitcoin really brought the technology of blockchain to the forefront and has become this sort of internet heartthrob and yeah, I would call it an internet.
Yeah, I don't think I ever heard that said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's become one of the biggest contenders in the financial sector, now out dwarfing the Great British Pound
it's over
in terms of its market cap,
right?
in terms of its size, and how much. It's well over $1 trillion, and the total market is over $2 trillion, and this is expected to grow over time. So if you are an investor, you just remember that basically we went from zero to hero in just a decade here, and the expectation is that this is going to triple over the next 5 years or so. So you're maybe about 20-30% of where the expected end result is going to be before we hit that total market cap. So from that alone, it creates a compelling case that this is probably an industry that people should look at getting into. What blockchain does for the world ultimately is it gives you more autonomy over your money. And this is why just 4 years ago, the existing banking infrastructure was freaking out, calling Bitcoin a scam and saying all of this stuff because you have this network of, few hundred banks in America, and really not that many more worldwide, very small body of people that have created this tight little network where they control everything. They control all the variables. They give you all the whatever interest rates they want. They don't work on weekends. I still for whatever reason in the 21st century, we can clone animals, but my money can't land until halfway next week because nobody works on weekends apparently, right? So along comes blockchain and says, we don't need to use this outdated technology to operate anymore. We can just, treat it like digital cash and go from point A to point B without having it to put it into a bank. And the thing with banks is, putting my tinfoil hat on for a second for those of people who it's so shiny. Yeah.
Yes.
Me and Elon Musk just coming back from Mars with these things. You gotta buy in now. I'll buy only with Dogecoin. Shut up and take my money.
Sorry. Shiny hat, tinfoil, banks.
So we're talking about banks, right?
No, it's... Yeah, so right, here we are. Right. So the thing with banks is that people may or may not be aware, when you put money into a bank, what you've actually given the bank license to do is to go out and spend your money, and what you see in your account is effectively an IOU. They give loans to corporations, they invest in their own stocks and bonds and securities, and the idea here is that the bank is supposed to be financially responsible enough that you can just pull out whenever you want. However, we've seen even in North America before, banks have been bailed out before, meaning that they've failed to live up to the standard that they set for themselves and that is expected of them by the general public. In Canada, where I live, it's even scarier because we have bail-in policies, meaning that in the situation of a bail-out or where you would normally get bailed out, the bank can just take my money. That's that's a real thing. And it's a highly unlikely scenario, or at least it feels highly unlikely, but yet we go through these financial crises and time again, these people, if I perform poorly, I get fired. If these banks perform poorly, they get bailouts. So clearly I am not doing something right here.
Just for a second, because I think, and maybe you're going to get into this, but John and I lately were talking about the Federal Reserve, and it's like it gets even worse. I mean, right now the banks are currently loaning out like 10x. So if I put in $1,000, they're going out and loaning 10,000. Mm-hmm. So, if I want to come get it, they're definitely tapped out. And the way that they do that is say, oh, well, we have this insurance from the Federal Reserve, which is basically the Federal Reserve just printing more money so that they can continue to loan out. And that's literally how they're making money. They're totally diluting the US dollar, and it's not the government. It's the central banks that are loaning money to the government, diluting the dollar. Anyway, I'm going to be quiet. Go ahead, Nick. But it gets me fired up.
Yeah. No, this is all really important. No, it does, right? And the thing is, it's like a frog boiling in water, to use that metaphor, right? It goes so slowly that we barely notice it. But to pull it back to what I was talking about before, when you put your money in a bank, you don't actually control your money, right? So if a bank says, you know what, now we're just going to lock you out of your account because we don't want you to withdraw, which happened in France just a couple of years ago when they had their yellow vest protests and they committed to run on the banks. All of a sudden your wealth is like poof, it's gone. What blockchain says is, no, you don't need that intermediary to play that role. You can have full autonomy over your money, your wealth, and this technology operates independently and without the control of any central party. Right. So there's a great sense of liberty that comes from that. And of course, the central banking sector loses its mind. It goes, we gotta stop this now. Like, it's a scam, but in the same breath that Jamie Dimon goes on national television and says, Bitcoin's a scam, they're opening up a blockchain department with like 75 staff and buying millions and millions of dollars of this Bitcoin. So, follow your nose, Toucan Sam style, and follow the money. It becomes evident that if this is causing this industry to lose its mind, over this stuff, that there's probably some legitimacy to it because they have a vested interest in keeping the power structure that they've established over the past 100 years intact. So that's point number one.
Can I ask a really fast?
That's why you should care about blockchain.
I love where
number
you're
one.
headed. I just don't
Barbara.
Okay, hypothetically though.
No.
So track with everything you're saying about the banks. And yep, sounds like a terrible idea. You're right. Well, why is there smoke without fire? But what's getting me about as I understand it, about the blockchain, cybercurrency, that whole thing, there is still something that's out of my control. I think I have demonstrated rather adeptly today that technology is out of my control. Like, I'm kind of curious, and this is coming from someone that knows very, very little. So you can probably answer this. But I look at this and I'm like, okay, technology already. Like, my computer can crash and I can't get my money. I can, like, if anything, what you're saying makes me want to go back to like bartering chickens with people as opposed to moving to the next technology. How do you talk me through that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of a dystopian scenario you're setting up. The important thing to understand with a blockchain is it exists so long as there are computers hooked up to the Bitcoin network. You would literally have to like simultaneously nuke tens of thousands of computers distributed all across the world in order to dismantle the Bitcoin network. And as so long as there's two guys in their parents' basement processing Bitcoin, that blockchain is still intact, right? And I'm probably like, there are probably some developers saying that, screaming right now, saying I misrepresented that. But conceptually, that's the point is across, is that it is extremely difficult to dismantle a blockchain. So your computer could crash, but you could just as easily go to your local library,
they're just closed,
still exist, and and go on their computers, right? They're just closed, or you could go on your friend's phone, and because of the type of technology it is, you can't be locked out of that money. So there's no corporate interest.
But you
that
lose
says,
me at the
Barbara
part.
can't access her money
because
right now.
I mean, aren't we currently living in an age where technology, that huge impersonal, tech companies and the individuals working for tech companies have a huge amount of say over what I'm allowed to say on social media. They're allowed to, decide whether or not, what emails I can see and which ones I can't. Like, I feel like I'm messing around with this assumption here that technology is going to keep getting better and like it's going to be good. And I can't quite track how we got there. Like, why do we think that this is... Why do I think I should trust the kid in his basement, in his mom's basement? Let's be real. More than the guy that got out of his mom's basement and went and put on a suit. Like, I don't think I hear the difference.
Yeah, I mean, the difference is a ton of financial crime from the guy in the suit versus the kid
or getting
in his
caught,
mom's basement.
Right? Like maybe the guy in his basement just doesn't get caught as much.
Right? Well, maybe, but I mean, the dirtiest currency in the world is the United States dollar. So, like that's what you're talking about there is it's a question about how we engage with tech and is tech good or bad, right? And I don't have a crystal ball for that. I think that it's going to be a mixed bag. I don't think you can really roll back the clock. And as technology continues to advance, unless we end up living in this crazy dystopian world where we lose all power and everything, chances are the internet's not going. Yeah, unless we end up living in Mad Max, the reality is technology. We're going to go closer towards Blade Runner, right? Which, for better or worse, is likely going to be the scenario. So,
just to your,
I'm not saying
point, Barbara. It's like when banks came out and they started, originally. I have one here. This was money, right? This is silver. I can hold it. This is your chicken, right? This is like, I'll trade you this for a chicken. And then, what's the date on that thing? It's like super old. 22, right? And then they're like, oh no, let's just use paper. Paper's so much. This is so heavy. Let's use paper. Well, you could have said the same thing. Well, paper can burn so easily. Well, and then there's a bank, right? Well, what if they don't give me my money? Like all of these what if scenarios have always existed. We're just used to them now, I think.
Yeah. There's, and ultimately you're right. Like there are certain limitations that companies like social media can do to limit our speech because they're private companies and so on and so forth. But big part of the decentralized component of blockchain technology is the fact that it works autonomously. It's like basically you've built this clockwork device and you've set it into motion, and now it runs with or without your consent, which is going to bring me into the Dogecoin story that I've been building up to here. So Dogecoin, being one of these blockchains, was made as a joke, right? The guy fully is like, this is a meme, right? Take it as such. And thanks to Elon Musk, now it's being adopted as an actual practical currency. But much like the Federal Reserve, Dogecoin has an unlimited supply. It puts out new coins into circulations hourly. And I'm not saying to any Dogecoin meme lords out there who are like, Doge is the future and Elon Musk is who I have duct taped on my poster of Elon on my wall that I drew over, waifu body pillow of Elon Musk. To anybody out there on that, it's like, I'm not saying don't buy Dogecoin. I'm saying that Dogecoin is what I would consider to be advanced. If you are a trader, if you are an investor who understands trading, yeah, you could probably have some fun with Dogecoin. If you are a beginner, it's a great way to get burned. And what has happened is a lot of people have ended up, buying in, losing money, and then they actually go and make death threats to this guy and his family. And he's like, I can't do anything about this. It works completely outside of his control now that he's put the wheels in motion, right? And I warned everybody accordingly, and you still didn't listen, right? So I'm, and when it comes down to the deciding factor, I'm probably not doing myself any favor out there. Always buyer beware. Always do your research. But I wanted to paint the picture that they are so autonomous that even the person who created this stuff cannot manipulate it, cannot put the brakes on it. So at least from that perspective, blockchains are safe from that what if scenario that you've painted. But I
Go ahead, sorry.
We've only gotten into one of my couple points as to why you should care about cryptocurrency, right? So we've established that you don't own your money when you put it in a bank, technically speaking, and Alton did a good job of establishing is that we're basically living in a boiling frog metaphor where our money is losing value year over year. Our money is bad. We used to, the US dollar has lost over 90% of its purchasing power over the past 100 years. Even if you don't believe in cryptocurrency, there's a reason why, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos only hold 10% of their net worth in cash. It's all stored in investments and stocks because those things tend to appreciate versus the depreciation. And this really just means to me is that we need better money, right? The money is bad, so we need better money. That's part of solving the income inequality issues that we have out there, because all fiat currencies are essentially destined to reach the same results. I'm not saying that sometimes you don't want to release stimulus. You're going through a pandemic, people need roofs over their heads and food on their tables. Okay, that's a legitimate justification to put some more currency into circulation. But if there is nothing inherently valuable about that, if it's only backed by debt, and or current economic strength of a country, which is more volatile than ever these days, then it will most likely end up being a bad scenario, right? And this is really what's given rise to cryptocurrencies and this huge sort of arms race to create the next sort of big currency in the market. So that's really where Lode comes in and what we do at Lode, right? The United States dollar used to have a gold standard. Gold has 5,000 years of history as monetary history behind it, being used as a payment vehicle. It's called, generally, it's referred to as a safe haven asset, meaning when crap hits the fan and things go bad, people tend to flock to gold and silver because it has a reputation of being stable. And during the period of history where the dollar was backed by gold, inflation was largely kept in check. It didn't completely get rid of it, but it did help retain the purchasing power of your dollar. And so, at Lode, we said, okay, well, we're not pirates. We don't walk around with giant treasure chests of gold and silver anymore. And, it doesn't make practical sense for our modern economy. But what we can do is take the benefits of blockchain technology and marry it to this standard that we know is proven universally, that is understood. And we can put this currency into circulation as a payment tool, as a speculative vehicle, It can, and you know, as a store of wealth. So it can be used for all the things that that people enjoy and love about investing in and their money, and with the added benefit of now they can once again use it as a way to pay for their coffee, pay for their groceries. So I'll put the ball back over to your court, John, Alton, Barbara, because I've just dumped a ton of information on you guys.
You did.
I want to let you catch your breath.
You did. In fact, I want to step back and take it from a newbie level. So when people hear about Bitcoin, back in the day, there was that big story, the guy that invented Bitcoin died and everything locked up. That's the first thing I think about when I think about Bitcoin. So how is Bitcoin so good if he apparently lost his code, or, you know, it died with him? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, just a little bit of clarity there. Nobody knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. He's the founder of Bitcoin. It might even be a they. All we know is there's a huge wallet holding a ton of Bitcoin, and it hasn't moved. That's all we know. Now, there are individuals who lose their private keys. And this is the trade-off with Bitcoin, is that with great power comes great responsibility. With great autonomy comes the personal responsibility of you managing your money. So blockchains have public addresses, which is how you get money. That's your deposit address. So send money here, please. Thank you. And then you have your private keys, which is how you withdraw your money. And without those private keys, you are hooped. Nobody on God's green earth can help you get your money back. At least this is how it was in the early days of cryptocurrencies. So all these stories of dudes who like had it stored and backed up on their hard drive, and then they're like, whatever, this isn't going anywhere, forget about it, throw it in the trash. You know, they lose these private keys, and then, you know, flash forward half a decade and it's now gone, you know, halfway to the moon, and, you know, sitting at $60,000 ish, and they want to cash out, but they've forgotten this code and they can't do that. Right. Yeah. So there is a certain level of risk when you choose to take on the full responsibility and autonomy of a blockchain wallet. Now, that being said, I don't think most people want that responsibility. Right. And this is where the role of cryptocurrency exchanges and a lot of the mobile wallet technology development that companies like Load are engaged in, you know, Trust Wallet, Claver, you know, Binance, Kraken, all the Coinbase, all the big names that you see. This is the kind of technology they're developing to make it the experience of using these wallets more user friendly, so that people don't have to feel so at risk with their money. Because I'll admit, you know, 4 or 5 years ago when I got started in this space, it had a learning curve like running into a brick wall. It was terrible. You know, and people are going around saying, this is the future of money. I don't know how to send it, but it's the future of money. Right. And so there was a lot of growth that needed to happen. And where we're at now is we're getting to the point where, merchants can get payment terminals that accept Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And I'll know that we've truly successfully reached our zenith as an industry at large when grandma can go to the grocery store and she isn't thinking about how a blockchain works. When I first came on the show, immediately you guys are like foaming at the mouth, like, so what's a blockchain? How does it work? And honestly, I want to get to the point where, you know, you don't even think about it, because you're not thinking about how does the Visa technology send my money?
I think about that a lot, Nick. I don't know why you assume that.
I pay my groceries.
You
just okay. You're right. I shouldn't. When you make assumptions, you make an ass out of you and me, as they say. All right. But by and large, most people aren't thinking about that. They're thinking about all the other things they need to do in their day. And so, as a payment technology, blockchains and cryptocurrencies.
I mean, I'm getting ads right now for like Visa cards,
and this is why I would.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
really?
Yeah, I got one today. Bit Visa.
Yeah,
and a bit of a.
They don't want me yet, apparently.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's give you another newbie question, which is, how do I actually get involved in Bitcoin if that's what I want to do?
Oh, but I'm not there yet. I saw a question on his last thing.
No. We're trying to get you off of chickens and into crypto.
right? She's getting off of barter and onto cash.
Isn't all of this, you're just talking about assumptions though, isn't all of this still based on a series of assumptions that have to be true? You're talking about, you've got all of this Bitcoin saved up in your virtual wallet, which all I'm thinking is like, none of this exists. And you're talking about putting, gold backing the Bitcoin. And you're saying that there are, please tell me if I'm saying this wrong, but basically
Sure.
like an agency that I can hire. Like I could hire you to be my Bitcoin broker, for lack of it. So I don't have to be responsible for my own password. Is that?
You could download an app on the phone and the app would act as the broker. But the app would operate in such a way that, I can't be
See, that's what's getting me. There's still people involved.
Out of your money,
and as
right?
long as there's people involved, there can be a shadowy overlord. Like you're telling me that this whole thing cannot be hacked. I mean,
no. I mean, it would be so ridiculously difficult
but like
that we would be
year
living
ago
in like
or
a
2
Marvel's
years,
Avenger movie.
haven't we, everything that we've done
beyond.
so far, hasn't that we've been able to say that like, oh, no, your medical records are safe. This cannot be hacked. We have, fill in the blank. I feel like I've heard this many times. And then a few weeks later, I get a letter in the mail saying, oh, my bad. Like we sold your information.
This is a great point, actually. And, when you read things online saying cryptocurrency exchange X got hacked, what is really taking place there is that when you log into a cryptocurrency exchange, it's a big central hub where, unless it's what's called a quote unquote decentralized exchange, it's basically like a crypto bank. So these exchanges have pooled all these funds together in one big pot, and they do the same thing that traditional banks do, which is say, when you want to withdraw, we'll send you the money, right? It's a little bit different in terms of how the licensing revolving around an exchange versus formerly a bank has to operate, right? So they, if you own shares in the company, the bank can't go and sell those shares and loan those shares out on your behalf, right? So it's a little bit different in that context than straight up cash in the bank, but they're still all held together in one big pool. And the human error that you're talking about comes from people like having dumb passwords and having human mistakes that are made that allow people access into private accounts, right? So it doesn't matter how secure the blockchain itself is. If grandma leaves her private keys out on the table, some dude can walk in and jack her wallet and I got hacked, but that's not a hack, right? That's a human error. So 90% of these circumstances that you're seeing are at their core because of human error that is made. So they're not 100% bulletproof. For certain, but the technology itself, nobody can hack a public blockchain or a very decentralized public blockchain. Yeah, sure, okay. Quantum computing. I'm just saying, blockchains could be Blu-ray DVDs for all we know. But we're not living in what ifs.
About this very right? generally and generically, and so we're not really quantifying the statistical probability and the amount of time required to hack the blockchain, the like level of encryption. And you can put numbers to that if you really want to get a headache. You can look at what it would require. And it's like you would have to build all of these supercomputers, and all of these supercomputers would have to process for, 1,000 years. Or anyway, there's ways that you can quantify it, and it's so statistically improbable that, the answer's no.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Go ahead, John. How to get back into it. My bad.
Yeah. And that's it.
All right. So let's get back to the newbie question of how do I get Bitcoin if that's what I want to switch to and start doing?
Sure, absolutely. So there are a couple different avenues to it. There's the old peer-to-peer method where you find somebody who's got some Bitcoin and you're like, I want your Bitcoin. Can I send you $10 for that? And your friend goes, yeah, sure. And then, he sent you get a Bitcoin wallet. You can go on, there's like hundreds of different apps, but obviously you went to loadpay.com and downloaded our mobile wallet and, and it put your public address out. And then, they were able to download it or to do the Bitcoin transaction that way, right? They sent you some Bitcoin and then maybe you sent them an e-transfer or whatever. Then there is the exchange method, right? Which is you go to a regulated exchange in the country you're in. Coinbase is, pretty universal at this point. That's probably de facto for a lot of people. You do a regular email sign up, and then just like you would a traditional stockbroker, online stockbroker, you would do what's called KYC, which is just a big fancy way of saying, hey, we just want to make sure you're not a fraud, right? You're not a scam artist. This isn't Ocean's 11, right? They're just doing the basic stuff, guys. And once you provide them that information, then you can go ahead and buy some Bitcoin or whatever currency that they host on their regulated exchange. Then there's the third option, which some mobile wallets are like pseudo exchanges, and they allow you to just download and buy right from within that mobile wallet experience. And there are some wallets out there that are a hybrid of that. I guess there's the fourth option too, which again is the decentralized exchanges as well. But they generally are a little bit riskier because they tend to skirt and live in the gray area of what is legal and not legal, because they operate autonomously, because they're not run by formal corporations in most circumstances. They kind of just operate. There's less legal rigor around them. So you could accidentally be putting yourself in a foot there. It's always buyer beware. Do your research before investing in anything. That's just sound, prudent logic for anybody who is thinking about investing in general. Please, Warren Buffett method. If you don't understand it, you don't have to invest into it. So I think Alton's halfway there already, Barbara. Maybe you and I do a couple coaching sessions before you're ready. Yeah. So that's how you get into the market, right? And then once you're in, it's really like, what do you want to do with it? Do you want to hold it as a store of value? Do you want to trade it and be Mr. Stonks, right? Do you want to use it for payments? Do you want to you can start building an entire portfolio of wealth for yourself, just like you do with any other traditional financial instrument, but you get the added benefit of being able to do the peer-to-peer thing. So if I want to send stocks to Alton, that's really hard to do. I can't do that. But if I want to send Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency to him, it's considerably easier for me to do that. And that's one of the other benefits of cryptocurrencies is the economic benefit of these currencies is easily transferable, whether that's digital gold, something that is really stable, right? Something that's really stable that can be used for trade and commerce. Maybe you're risk adverse. Maybe you want to tiptoe your way into the market, right? I can send that digital gold and forth back super easily. Or if I want to do fractional ownership of real estate, I could send that fractional ownership to Alton like this. No need for a realtor. Why bother, right? I can own 1/4 of a hospital and send it his way in 30 seconds. Diamonds, pure speculative assets like Bitcoin, right? That interoperability and that peer-to-peer experience is something that is unique to cryptocurrency, which I think is another big selling point. So I'll put it back over to you before I go any deeper, because the rabbit hole is very deep and I can just keep digging. Let me
ask these questions. So I don't know how much I've done, but I keep the silver stuff. It looks all gross right now because this is the one that because I fondle it. Most of them, they come in like plastic little deals, right? But I'm like, got this silver. I want to touch it every once in a while. And so when I see this is what I think about is like a store of value. In other words, I know that someone had to dig a hole in the ground and get a pickaxe and just keep digging. And then they found some, and then they found some more. And then they had to haul it out of a mine, and then they had to refine it and boil it and cook it. And then they had to make some mold. Somebody had to design this. Somebody had to pay the designer. And now we have an ounce of silver here. If you're listening, I'm showing like silver coins from 1922, and I have like this 10-ounce bar of silver. Now, I can say that this 10-ounce silver bar is worth something because of the amount of effort that was required to create it. Now, it may be worth a little bit more to me or someone else, but generally there is value there. Talk to me about why, or does Bitcoin have any inherent value? And then obviously I'm biased towards the real value of silver, gold, precious metals, and how are you connecting that to Bitcoin? Because that's something that I'm not really familiar with, or blockchain, or whatever word I'm supposed to use there.
Doge.
Yeah, for sure. So the consensus algorithms and the mining that blockchains are often associated with are called proof of work, right? So this processor, this computer processor, which, had to be built by somebody somewhere, and that operating system has to process and crunch the numbers required for this algorithm to operate. So just in the same context of that you've applied finding rock in the ground and pulling it out of a mine, it's a different type of work, but it's still work, right? And that's what this consensus algorithm to a lot of developers are known as, is a proof of work, right? And that's why miners get Bitcoin for processing these transactions, for crunching these numbers. So the mining term is more of a metaphor than anything, right? And now, as to does Bitcoin have inherent value? Well, that really depends on you as the individual. There are a lot of Bitcoin maximalists out there, people who believe Bitcoin and only Bitcoin is the way or the future. It couldn't possibly be anything else. Will say that yes, there is inherent value. More conservative people will say if I can't touch it, I can't hold it, then there is no value. This is why these are called speculative vehicles, right? But I think if you look at what the industry is doing right now, and the fact that pretty much the entire financial sector is moving over to blockchain, and pension funds, hedge funds, and all of these major financial operations are at least putting sections of their portfolio into crypto. I would say that the case has already been made that yes, at least for now, for the next foreseeable future, Bitcoin does have inherent value. Now, if you can just quickly reiterate, I know we're running out of time here a little bit, and I do want to respect that. If you can just reiterate again your question surrounding, the gold and silver blockchain experience, were you just looking for a better definition of what we're doing with Load and how that works? Because
I like silver and gold. Yeah. Honestly, this is a legitimate concern for me because I've been on the fence with Bitcoin, and I actually I hate bringing this up. I had a lot of Bitcoin 5 years ago, and I'm like, this is stupid. It's not going anywhere. And cashed out. Okay, so anyway, so that happened. Yeah. But the reason that happened was because I just felt that it was so speculative. I could do better in other things. And I thought, honestly, with the way this is going up and down, and I couldn't really understand how it could become more valuable over time. I was like what you said with Warren Buffett. I'm like, look, I don't get this. I'm out. I'm just going to buy some silver and gold. And I understand that, and it makes sense to me. And I think that people run to silver and gold because of it's this known thing. Yeah, no matter what, it's always going to have some amount of value. I believe that many people are replacing gold in that scenario with Bitcoin. They're like, Bitcoin is the store of value. It's not gold anymore. Gold's maybe it is, but Bitcoin is definitely another tier of that. And so explain to me what in the world you're doing with Load and how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. It's oh man. Okay. So this question gets me so pumped. I just argued with someone on Reddit before coming on here for 20 minutes about this.
Go.
Yeah. Right. So the idea that Bitcoin and gold are competitors is kind of dumb. And I'll tell you why. Because Bitcoin went down to $3,000 during the last market correction. All markets are cyclical. What goes up must come down. Yes, gold and silver are cyclical too. But the amount that gold and silver move compares to losing 85% of your value in Bitcoin, that is not a store of value if you are somebody who is risk averse. Let's pretend I'm a senior citizen. I maybe got 3 or 4 years left in my life, or maybe 10 or 15 if I'm lucky, right? I need a certain amount of stability. I cannot have my money or my wealth sitting in an asset that can lose 85% of its value at any given time because Elon Musk farts, right? So this whole, but that's not to say that Bitcoin doesn't have value. I'm not here to hate on people's price appreciation. And I think Bitcoin does have, and what Bitcoin represents, does have inherent value and will be used for years to come. And that, if you are looking to speculate on the value of Bitcoin, yeah, you should definitely buy into that. So what we're doing it with Load is saying, we'll put real physical gold into vaults all over the world, and we have like top tier vaulting partners that we work with, and we put this on a public blockchain, right? We break it down. Every gram of silver that we have in the vault is represented by a token, and every milligram of gold that we have in the vault is represented by a token. And you can buy this currency and this asset just like you could traditional gold and silver, but with the added benefit if you're not paying the premiums that you pay at a bullion dealer. You're paying much closer to the actual spot price. And then when you want to sell or cash into Bitcoin, you're not losing a couple of percentage points because the bullion dealer only wants to give you a certain price or like below spot or close to spot, right? You're getting at exactly what the market says its value is worth. So that's more honesty with your precious metals. Then we say, you know what, if you are old school and you like to touch it and hold it, you can buy this digital silver and you can physically redeem it if you want to. So if you just want to accumulate this, maybe you do some trading on a Bitcoin exchange, Bitcoin goes to the moon again, you want to cash out your profits, you can hold it in that digital gold and silver and then withdraw that for the physical metal itself. And all we're really doing in this circumstance is making this gold and silver more divisible, making it functional for trading commerce, and we're basically updating the business model that the traditional bullion market presently operates in, and we're using blockchain as sort of the operating system to put this currency on. And this is what the Ethereums and the sort of Trons of the world are. You've probably heard Ethereum. That's the number 2 coin out there. Those are like operating systems, right? Like the same way Apple is an operating system or Windows is an operating system, right? So we have our currencies sitting on one of these operating system like blockchains. And we put those out into circulation into the world. But again, we do everything from audits to vaulting reports to, again, making this digital gold and silver easily accessible to people and eliminate, and through this technology, we're able to eliminate a lot of the burdens of conventional bullion buying and make it so that if you want to tiptoe your way into the market, like maybe you just want to do a little bit of Bitcoin investing and maybe you just want to take your wins in gold and silver versus US dollars. You can do that.
I'm really kind of lost. Right? If you're backing your Bitcoins with gold stays here, Bitcoin rises above. How can you catch up?
Right. So this is the important piece that you're missing. It is not Bitcoin. No Bitcoin whatsoever. A blockchain, remember, this is why I started off at the beginning saying Bitcoin is on a blockchain, but blockchains can be used for other things than Bitcoin, right? So we put our gold and silver on a blockchain, right? And it's tied to the exact value of that gold, of that silver. And people will trade it and buy it and sell it and use it at whatever rate they determine is fair value for those currencies, the same way you would any other asset that trades out there in the market. However, because people can have the comfort that this is backed by a real tangible asset, it is very likely that people will trade this at close to what the spot value is of gold and silver in traditional equities markets, right? So you can get that comfort of buying into a real safe haven asset and still being able to play with Bitcoin when you feel like you want to be a little more risque, right?
Yeah, totally.
Does that help? Does that help clear it up a little bit?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so that's sorry. Hopefully I'm getting through here. I feel like I've done a moderate to adequate job in explaining this stuff. Barbara, you asked a question a little earlier on. This is a great question as well. Why would a Bitcoin dealer accept US dollars? And I'll tell you right now, some of the people that we work with,
if it's filthy, lousy money, I'm like, shoot, no thanks. I'll keep my Bitcoin instead of having
what do they require?
Oftentimes, lots of business partners want us to pay them in Bitcoin, or they want us to pay them in another currency, in a stable coin, which is what Load is essentially, right? Is stable coins, that digital gold, that digital silver, and they're called stable coins because usually they're collateralized. They have real tangible something backing them, right? So there are, at least within the industry, a good chunk of service providers that don't accept US dollars anymore. But as to why someone might, well, it's still cash, and it's the United States for the time being is still the biggest economy in the world. So there's still lots of application for that. But likely what they are going to do is depending on what they are, right? Like if it's an agency, they might use that to balance their books or pay their taxes, that US dollar. Or alternatively, if there's something like an exchange, they'll probably hold on to that US dollar so that they can provide liquidity to people, to investors, so that when they're ready to exit the market and pay their taxes or, feed their families, that they can do so, right? So for the time being, still having that US dollar around is practical. But I think, in the next 10 years or so, most people will probably hold most of their wealth on some kind of blockchain portfolio, and they will use government-backed stable coins versus your traditional digital cash or physical US dollar. So that's another rabbit hole.
We need
to
him
dive
to come
in,
back because there's a lot of things that come to mind. So we're kind of in a transitional point then in history, is what it sounds like. You could exist in both worlds and not lose everything, right? Like in the crummy, dirty paper dollars.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think that's a good way to put it, I think. And I'll close on this after saying, I'm really glad I confuse all of you guys. Well, you guys are all sitting there. Well, wait,
you got to give us our biggest push as to whether we should or shouldn't right now. Is it really the best time?
I would say in the long term, I'm saying the next 5-10 years, because markets go up and down. And again, Elon Musk could do anything, could make another flamethrower and the market could go crazy. But I think in the next 5 to 10 years, that this is the biggest wealth generation event of our lifetimes. This is creating more prosperity for people than ever before recorded in human history. And that is a fact. And part of why I go on these shows is to help people understand this and to get people excited about this and to bring as many people along for this journey as possible, because I don't want anybody
sell your chickens, Barb. Sell them quick.
Doesn't it make it less valuable if everybody buys in? I mean, supply and demand? No. Okay. You know what? Another show. You can come back. Sorry.
No. No. Another show. I'll say this. Why is a Lamborghini worth half as much just because you drove it?
Oils on your fingers and. Well, because it's not it's supply and demand, right? You already have it. Now it's not. It's not as
well. I mean, it's still a Lamborghini, and somebody else out there wants a Lamborghini. But I digress. We're going to go down another rabbit hole.
Nick. So you dropped a load of information on us. Puns intended.
Good fun.
And yep.
Woo-hoo.
But
I was waiting for it.
I think what you've given us is a lot of information. I think there's a whole lot more in-depth information that we're missing, but we don't have time, but we should absolutely schedule another deciding factor with you to dive deeper in. That way people can learn more, especially Alton, because he's definitely into stocks and trading. So he's probably a little more interested than most.
Well, this is the first time that I've heard of a cryptocurrency that is backed by anything like physical. So that was a new concept and idea to me, but I enjoy the idea of a cryptocurrency because I'm kind of like that crazy conspiracy theory guy with the government, and I don't like the Federal Reserve, and so that's I hope you're listening.
Into the microphone.
Come to my house. So, so I mean, I think that's really doubling down on the the idea that is growing. I used to think that I was super crazy, and the more I talk to people, there's a growing realization of the silent killer of our money, of inflation. And I think that that's why you're seeing everything flowing towards Bitcoin. It's still young, but I think backing a digital currency like you guys are doing is really I guess it's not a new concept in some ways, but it's new to me, so I think it's pretty sweet.
All right.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
So, Nick, do me a favor.
I will. Sorry,
I need to ask you this question, and that is, can you share a bit about you that people can follow you going forward.
Pun is suffering here, man. That's terrible.
I was too serious today. I didn't come up with any good puns. I'm sorry, guys.
Not after that one, John. I'm sorry. No, yeah, absolutely. So if you are already a cryptocurrency investor and you want to yell at me on Twitter about all the hair splitting that I got wrong, you can find me at Nicholas Prouten on Twitter. It's NicholasProuten on Twitter. Simple as that. Come find me. Come yell at me. I love it. I live for it. Then all jokes aside though, if you are interested in the project, what we're doing at Load, how does tokenizing gold and silver work, and you want to learn more, I would highly recommend heading over to Load.one. So that's LODE .1 ONE. And there you're going to find lots of investor resources so that you guys can have a certain level of comfort. You can talk directly with our community managers and they'll be happy to help give you guys the basics. You can also hop in our Telegram channel that you can find right on the website. And there's a great community of people like there that get super pumped, like Alton, like me, on creating alt currencies and fighting the man, so to speak. Although we do work with the man just a little bit, so nobody goes to the prison. So nobody goes to prison, right? Makes sense. If I could do what I do not from jail, that would be awesome. And then right? And then the last place I'll send people to is that if you do want to download the mobile wallet and you just want to, you're a tactile learner and you just want to get started, you can head over to loadpay.com, LODE pay.com, and you can download the mobile wallet within seconds, guys. So that's a good basket of resources for you guys to come find me. And it's been an absolute
we'll link all
pleasure being on the
those
show with you guys.
links down below. So if you're at your computer or can reach it on your phone, you can click on those, unless you're that fast of a typer, and you can follow everything he just said. But Nick, it was good having you on. I don't feel as nerdy as I used to, so now I've got a lot more to learn, it seems like. So yeah, but thanks for coming on. And we will continue the deciding factor right here shortly.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Nick. That's good stuff. And I'm believing in your project. So best of luck.
It was good to meet you.
Same here.
I'll see you soon, Alt. It was a pleasure meeting you, Byron. Take care.
Man, there is so much to everything he just said. And man, I kind of feel stupid, to be honest with you. I don't know.
It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. I kind of alluded to my dating with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies probably like 5 years ago. And I remember having a lot of conversations about it and trying to understand it, because when anything new comes out, you want to be on the forefront if you want to be a bazillionaire, right? And get in when the getting's good. But there's way more risk. And having some conversations with one of my mentor guys, and he was just talking about some of the people who were working for him would only accept payment in Bitcoin, which is, I'm kind of like looking at them like they're crazy. But now 5 years later, I'm like, well, I'm the stupid one, like I missed that boat. So yeah, I think that there's a lot. One of the things that I wanted to mention though was about just this idea of money. And we didn't start the show out like this, but honestly, I believe many people who are running around using money all the time, like they don't even really know what it is, or they're not thinking about what it is and the fallacies that we're currently implemented. It's like we're all walking around with crutches, addicted to crutches, and we have no concept of just like throwing away the crutches and walking normally, because that was just how we thought. And really, money is just a store of value. And more importantly, you want that to provide some purchasing power, right? So if I work for an hour and you pay me $10, in my own head, I'm imagining, okay, I can get 2 cups of Starbucks now. So I traded this hour of time and you gave me this piece of paper that has a number 10 on it. And when I go down to Starbucks, they're going to exchange that. So to me in the basic form, that's what what money is it's a store of purchasing power. And so when we start talking about all of these big words that are hard for this Texan to pronounce, really at the end of the day, it's a store of value and to allow you to purchase things on the simplest form. And then once you start learning about the banking systems and inflation and all of those things and protecting money long term, then it becomes a much more significant question that we need to answer is, should I be getting in Bitcoin right now? Because if you just let's say that you're racking up a bunch of money, your $1 million is sitting there in cash and you're planning on retiring in 40 years. Well, the federal government just printed $2 trillion again. So literally they just stole money from you. That your purchasing power is not going to be the same, especially over that time period. And so if you want to be protecting yourself against that threat, which is very real, because every single administration in the United States, it seems, at least for the past however long, has just been printing absurd amounts of money. And so it goes back to that Dumb and Dumber where they open up the suitcase. It's just a bunch of IOUs. That's as good as money. Well, not really.
Is it?
Not really. But that's where we're at, is that we're sitting here with a bunch of IOUs and we gave the Federal Reserve the authority to just write more IOUs.
Barb?
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, I'm glad you said all of that about money, because that's what I kept thinking through this thing. It's like, I don't have a problem conceptually with cybercurrency. I obviously don't understand a lot of the inner workings of most technology, but as far as, money, gold, silver, it says that somebody wants it. We're saying that there's somebody is willing to put a value on it. I can see why this would be a thing. I can see why we're headed that way, because we societally right now put a heavy importance on technology, right? Honestly, I've never totally understood investing in gold, because I think gold by itself doesn't have inherent value unless somebody wants it, right? It's only if it's declared that way. Maybe some people always will. The thing that I get stuck on is, and I just think this means I don't understand. I would really like for him to come back, because I do have more questions. I don't quite understand why there is a view of Bitcoin or any kind of, I'm trying not to call it fake money. I can't think of what else to call it. Digital currency. There we go. I don't get why it's supposed to be safer. Nothing was hackable until it was hacked. I think, and that's not a reason not to do it, but anytime that there is an assumption that no, people behind this, the people setting these up, it's generally the good guys. It's the altruistic. To me, it's like, well, there's a flaw. You just found the fly in your ointment. Because as long as there's people involved, and even if you create the program and then set it loose, right, and it's going to run and you can't touch it, color me skeptical. Nothing was touchable until it was. And so I don't think it's a good reason to get into it. I'm going to miss all of the stuff that went wrong with US currency. I'm going to, protect myself ultimately. I think it just seems like any other investment to me. If you're paying attention to the times right now, it seems like probably a good one, because people are really into it. I don't have the illusion that it's going to somehow grant us protection from inflation or all the things that are wrong with the financial system today. I think will still be wrong with I can't say that. Cryptocurrency.
There you go. All right. So I guess let's do the deciding factor and see what we can come up with. So is this now the best time to get in on Bitcoin?
Now it's time for our deciding factor.
So let me start by saying there's still so much we've got to learn. I agree. He's got to come on here. We're probably going to have to end up getting some kind of offline training with him to get more down into this. So when when you think about, is this the best time to get in on Bitcoin? Everybody's always going to be skeptical of new things, right? I mean, back when we were kids, we didn't know what the internet was. Then we had AOL. Then it turned into all these other different things, and it wasn't just dial-up. What about VHS tapes, right? Everybody used to get VHS tapes. Then we ended up getting DVDs. I've got a buttload of DVDs, and we're trying to move. And so it's like I got all these boxes of DVDs, and even my wife, she's yelling at me, why do we need these? We have Amazon Prime. Why, we could just watch it online. We got Netflix. What the crap? Get rid of them, John. So it's things like that. Things have always changed and gotten different over time. Cryptocurrency, or Bitcoin itself, has been around since January of 2009, so it's over a decade old. If it's still going strong and it keeps going like it has been, it's obviously starting to take over in some form or fashion. Will it ever be better than some of the other options you can do? I don't know. I still need to figure this out. However, it is very possible, in my opinion, this might be the right time, because later on, if you wait till it is popular, you've missed something big. So I'm up for looking more into this, and a little more interested to see if I need to not focus on stocks itself, go straight for Bitcoin, or what to do. So that's where I stand. Barb, what you say?
Yeah, I have a lot to learn. And I have a hard time answering this because I sort of, on the one hand, feel like if you view it correctly, like for what it is, that there's an element of risk here. Like it's an investment, like anything else, whether you're doing stocks or whether you're hiding money under your mattress. I think if you go into it with the mindset, it's not that this is going to make me wealthy. This does not solve all of my problems. It needs to be part of a larger plan for your life, I feel like. And I still, in the back of my mind, I'm not convinced that this is the game changer. I don't have a problem with it. It seems very much like, the stock market or like anything else that you can choose to learn to do really well, and that there's risk associated with it. Is it how I personally probably want to spend my money or time? Probably not. I'm aware that I have a generally mistrust of technology. I don't understand the how often technology is spoken about like it's morally safe. Like everything is always better if there's improved technology. I don't buy into that entirely. I think for myself, it's not probably where I want to invest the resources I have.
So would you say it's a soft no or a hard no?
I would say it's not even a no. I would say, like, if my husband came home and said, yeah, I really think we ought to spend that $50 under the mattress on Bitcoin, I'd be like, okay. I don't think it's life-changing.
But you're not fixing to sell your house, take the profits, and put it into Bitcoin.
No, if I'm going to sell my house and take the profits and do something, it's going to be to develop skills. Because that is one thing when we talk about all this, and I know it's still theoretical, but I think there are things that are always going to be of value to people beyond money. And yeah, it would be dystopian if we had to go back to swapping chickens, except that it's a real thing. In crisis, like, what do people want?
Eat chicken.
I still want to eat chicken, right? Like, people will not, they'll want food. They'll want you'll need the ability to build stuff. But that's just me. I'm not saying it's bad to invest. I think it's fine. And I think his company, I think that's fascinating. Load seems like a good way to do it if you're going to do it.
All right, Alton, bring us home.
I mean, to me, it's a little bit of a loaded question.
A loaded question. Sorry.
So, but seriously, like, is now the right time? I can speak from experience and say that I think 5 years ago was a better time if you didn't sell out. But again, it's one of these things that you don't know. Now, if you're asking me, what is the difference between 5 years ago and now? Number one is that the market cap is like insane right now. In other words, so many billionaires and millionaires and companies are pumping money into Bitcoin right now. It's not the weirdo that only gets paid in Bitcoin and the government's bad and tinfoil hat. It's Elon Musk just put what, 20 million into Bitcoin or something like that, and all of these other things. So it's no longer the guy who's sitting here being paranoid about everything buying it. It's mainstream, large companies. More companies are announcing that they plan to be doing this and they plan to be accepting it as. So, my question's around, is it valuable or not? It's like, well, if everyone's using it, then it is, because regardless of what you think, I mean, there's no value in the piece of paper that we use, but if you're tired of those $100 bills, I'll take them because someone else will take them. And someone else is even like guaranteeing that it's worth something. And it's a funny thing is that in, I don't have one here, but in Canada, they are actually making gold and silver coins, but you can go into any Canadian bank, as I understand it, and just immediately exchange that, like at a bank, because it's accepted as such for like the spot price, not whatever's written on there. Like my silver dollar's worth $30 or whatever. It's not the dollar that's written on it. So when we think about why are people who are billionaires and millionaires moving a lot of money into it, I think that that's a big question that you have to ask yourself as someone who's not a millionaire or a billionaire. Why are millionaires and billionaires pumping money into Bitcoin? What is it that they know? And if you think about it, they have the most to lose. Whether you hate the rich or whatever, fine. But they got millions of dollars that they're trying to protect. And one of the avenues that they're seeing as such is Bitcoin. I think that Bitcoin is head and shoulders above the rest of these digital currencies, although up until today, I didn't really know that they were backing digital currencies with physical assets, which I think is like a superpower. And I think right now, if you're skeptical or whatever, I think what you brought up, John, that was great, is talking about your DVDs. Barbara's probably watching Netflix or Amazon Prime and not thinking about, the technology there. And I think that's what Nick was talking about. He's like, he needs people like Barbara just watching Netflix. But you got people like John here who don't want to give up his DVDs, right? And so it's like, look, Netflix could just shut down and then I can't watch anything. But if I had these DVDs, then I'm still good. Well, are they Blu-ray? Are they HD DVD? Because like there for a time it was, is it HD DVD or is it Blu-ray? And finally Blu-ray won out and then they lost to Netflix. So I think that is where we're at right now. It's like we've got this HD DVD and Blu-ray, and we don't know exactly who's going to win out. But if you poll the audience, Bitcoin has a huge lead, and I think there's so much money in there. We've kind of like passed this point where it's like what, like Dogecoin, whether it was a joke or not, there are literally kids driving around in Lamborghinis right now because they put $100 into Dogecoin and now they're millionaires. So like you can say whatever you want, like that really happened. And the same thing is true for Bitcoin. So I think that maybe it's not perfect, but I've definitely been reconsidering it because of the amount of stimulus that the United States government is pumping in to the economy and the way the Federal Reserve Bank works. I think that we're on like a ticking, like the time is running out before this US dollar experiment fails. And then what are you going to do? And if everybody's sitting in Bitcoin, it's no big deal. And I think that's why.
So
go ahead.
Do you feel like talking to Nick pushed you over that edge and you're really,
I mean, I was over the
really
edge already. But I really like the idea of diversifying your digital currencies with something that's attached to the gold standard, and like you mentioned with the inflation, the US dollar, when it was on the gold standard, changed the game. And I think that they're definitely on to something for sure.
Wow. Well, that's awesome. Well, guys, this was another good show. If you've listened thus far, make sure you check us out on social media. Unfortunately, right now we are suspended from Twitter, so don't check us out there. We don't even know if we will come back. So
breaking the law.
You might just have to law. Oh. Yeah. So that's what you get for sharing things that not everybody wants to hear. But hey,
you hurt my feelings, John.
Whatever. Yep. We also have our new not Facebook, our website. So make sure you go there, check out the website. You have comment sections on there. If you have a guest you want to see, then put that in there. We want to hear from you, and we want to know what your thoughts are, so share them. Also, make sure you follow us on Facebook. We'll post random events there, so check that out. Guys, this was a lot of fun. I always love our recording days, and it makes me so happy. So thanks for being on. Thanks for your input, and we will see all of you next time. Everyone, say bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been another episode of The Deciding Factor, giving you food for thought on real-life issues. Be sure to click, like, and subscribe to this podcast, as well as all your big social media outlets, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't forget to check out our website at thedecidingfactorpodcast.com and give us comments and feedback. Until next time, stay safe and remember to keep an open mind.